Parshas Haazinu. This week's Parsha has, in poetic form, we can take a quick look, we've seen it before. Here we have, unlike the regular, shall we say, prose structure, in Haazinu it's written, we see a lot of white space, it's written in kind of poetic form in verse. And then there's some paragraphs, two paragraphs, actually, that follow the poetry. And they describe Moshe's transmission of this poem, the Shira of Haazinu, which to the children of Israel. This poem talks about some of the offenses, the derelictions of the children of Israel in the past, and a prediction that they will fall again, but things will work out. And so there's kind of a summarizing paragraph. First of all, it says that Moshe read or said all of these words. As kol devrei hashira hazos boznei ha'am hu Yoshua ben Nun. He and Yoshua transmitted the words of this song or poem to all of the children of Israel. Yoshua is now, we may recall, is the designated successor, and Moshe is about to pass away, and Yoshua is about to step in. So this is part of the transition of power and authority. And then what happens? It says Moshe finished speaking, Vayomer Alehem, and he said, now, Simu levavchem, we're going to translate it literally and then get into it a little bit more. Place your hearts, l'chol advorim asher ani me'id bochem hayom, to all of the things that I testify about you today. Asher titzavum, so that you will command, es b'nechem, your children, lishmor la'asos, is called the Torah asos, to, again, literally, guard and do all of the words of this Torah. So, first of all, we have a question. What does it mean, place your heart? Well, we've mentioned in the past, we've said that Rabbi Avigdor Miller is very emphatic that lave generally means mind. That thought is not an original thought of his. It's found in various sources, including the Rambam in Mar Nevuchim, in the Guide to the Perplexed, who spends quite a bit of space talking about the meanings of words and how they're expansive meanings. So one of the meanings, and a dominant meaning of the word lave, is mind. So simu levavchem, place your mind. In other words, pay attention. Simu levavchem l'chol advorim asher ani me'id bochem hayom. Pay attention to all the things that I'm saying today. Well, why? Aren't we supposed to pay attention to everything? Shouldn't we have been paying attention to everything? What is it about this that justifies a specific exhortation by Moshe? Pay attention. So the second part of the verse of Memvav, that's we're in 32. This is 46, and we'll also be reading Mem Zayin, which is 47. So he says one of the goals is to create a legacy, and a spiritual legacy, that your children will lishmor lasos. Will, we said, guard. To guard and do. There are differing opinions about what this means. Sometimes, I believe the Abarbanel says this, and others, lishmor frequently means to be careful, guard. How do you guard? To protect against performing acts which are prohibited. And la'asos is to be careful to do the acts that are required, that are commanded. The Vilna Gaon takes a different approach, and this is not the first time we've seen this, which is lishmor, is to guard, meaning to learn the subjects and to hold on to them, to learn the detail and to hold on to it so that you can do it when the time arises. In other words, be prepared, learn everything, even if it's not part of what you are experiencing at the moment, but learn everything so that when the time comes and it is an appropriate match for your circumstances, you will know how to respond appropriately. Okay. We still want to know what's about paying attention. The next verse contains another puzzling usage of a word. It says, Kilo davorehu mikem. This is not, I'm going to read the ArtScroll translation here, which does not address the issue. For it is not an empty thing for you. The problem is that mikem does not mean for you. Lachem would mean for you. Mikem means of you. It is not an empty thing of you. What does that mean? Kihu chayechem, because it is your life. And with this thing, you will lengthen your days on the land that you are crossing over the Jordan to inherit. What does it mean, lo davar reik hu mikem? It is not empty of you. So there are various commentaries about this. Two of them are kind of different aspects of this. One of them is lo davar reik hu mikem. It's not. There's an opinion of one of the Chazal that if you think that it is empty, if you think it just is void of significance, then mikem. The problem is not in the Torah. The problem is you. In other words, you haven't done your work. The Torah is challenging to master, and it's challenging to master accurately. Somebody who's got a good memory can read the Torah and can memorize it, but to derive the meaning, you really have to, guess what? Pay attention. Not just pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the structure of the words. Pay attention to the arrangement of the words. Pay attention to the sequences of the words. Pay attention to the spellings of the words. There are many, many different anomalies and keys to understanding that are embedded in the text. And if we don't pay attention, if we don't look carefully, and Rashi says to put our eyes, our ears, and our minds to the words of the Torah. So it looks like these two problematic phrases actually might be answering the difficulty with each other, which is, why are we talking about paying attention? We're not simply saying study Torah. What we're saying is the way to study Torah and the way to see that the words of the Torah have meaning is to pay attention to the nuances. Rashi compares this to, he says, if when designing a building and reading plans, you use basically kind of a ruler, he says that the words of Torah are kahararim hatulim b'sara, that they're like mountains that are dangling on a string. In other words, there's deep, deep, deep meaning that has only the slightest of allusions in the Torah in order to give us a key to understanding. Another approach to mikem, which is compatible with this, but it takes a different direction, is lo davar reik hu mikem. It is not empty of you. In other words, every single individual can find matters that relate to his life in the Torah. And when we pay enough attention to it, and we note difficult passages, and those difficult passages raise questions in our mind. So you could say, I don't know, you could also say it's a davar reik, it's empty, meaning it's not authentic. And that's not our approach. Our approach is every word is authentic. The entire Torah is authentic. It is the word of God. And the way to decode the word of God is to pay attention to all of the detail, to acknowledge the difficulties and not to sweep them over, because those difficulties are the keys to all future understanding. If something is challenging to understand, then it's an invitation to dive deeper and to pay attention. Simu levavchem, your mind, your eyes, your ears, and you will find, says Moshe Rabbeinu through the commentaries, you will find, number one, that there are mountains of meaning that are discoverable, and you will find that it's mikem, that it is of you. You can find yourself in the Torah. Have a good Shabbos.